programme at the end of the first day of the third test between England and India. Alongside me, Jeremy Coney and Steve Harmison. I'm Neil Manthorp to look back at a curious first day's play, which England finished on 251 for 4 after winning the toss and choosing to bat first. Curious in the sense that Bazball certainly didn't make an appearance, but as Jeremy was saying during commentary, England very much dictated to by conditions. A hard-fought opening stand of 43 between Ben Duckett and Crawley ended when both were dismissed within the space of 3 deliveries, not by the returning Jasprit Bumrah, but by Nitish Reddy, who suddenly got the ball swinging more than anybody else has. But finishing the day, Joe Root, 99 not out, just within 1 run of an 8th century at headquarters, extending his own record. He's already 1 clear of those behind him, Michael Vaughan and Kevin Peterson with 600s at headquarters. Ben Stokes is 39 not out. We need to talk about him as well because he had 10 minutes of treatment on a strained left groin, it looked like, and he's not in a good position. That's the overview then. Let's start with you, Harmy. Strange, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't what the crowd have been used to seeing, what England supporters have been used to seeing over the last 3 years. I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing.
I think the time will tell if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think England are ahead in this game. I think England didn't start the game that well when it comes to... Not so much England didn't start that game well. I thought India started the game in the first 45 minutes really well. They put the ball in the right area. They asked some good questions. England were a bit scratchy. Duckett and Crawley weathered the storm, and then... Then I didn't think India bowled that well leading into the lunch break. And I think overall, the day's been made by somebody who isn't part of the Bazball. He's not the driver of that bus, is he? He sometimes...
He tried to gate crash it at first, though, didn't he?
He sometimes sits at the back, puts all the windows, opens all the windows and tries to let the air in just to sort of slow the bus down at times. I thought it was a wonderful innings, and unfortunately for what we're going to talk about Ben, but it's unfortunate that Ben's in the position he's in, whether it's a little tweak of the groin, whether it's cramp or whatever, because he actually looked really good. He faced 73 balls in the second innings at Edgbaston, from the most he's faced this year in a competitive cricket match, and he looked well until he got that injury. But no, I think India probably started the session or the day, first 45 minutes really, really well. But after that, I thought slowly but surely England wrestled the initiative back, and are sitting now in a very, very not in a comprehensive position, but in a very, very good position.
Just to complete the scorecard before I come to you, Jeremy, Ollie Pope fought hard, didn't he, for his 44 from 104 balls, but tried to cut the first ball after tee from Jadeja and was caught behind by Dhruv Jurel, who's keeping wicket in place of the injured Rishabh Pant, who was injured in the middle session. And Harry Brook was bowled by Jasprit Bumrah. I did say that it was unlikely Bumrah would finish the day without a wicket, and he bowled a Jaffa to get rid of Harry Brook. But yeah, hard going in that final session. India couldn't find another wicket. 251 for 4.
Slightly old-fashioned day, wasn't it, really?
Was, wasn't it?
Felt as if I could have put my whites on, actually, and pop out there. But, yeah, it was. But I think the conditions determined the way the batsmen had to play. We saw some slightly frenetic batting early on with Crawley, I felt, who tried to sort of change the length of the bowler by charging and walking at them. And then getting wider balls because of that, and then reaching towards those, and some of them he hit very nicely. They got a couple of boundaries away early, but then slashed one over the slips and so on. And then finally, Nitish Reddy, the one you wouldn't expect. They'd tried Siraj, they'd tried Bumrah, and they'd tried Akashdeep, and then suddenly Nitish Reddy bowling slightly slower. He just feathered one through to the keeper. So that was interesting. And then Duckett, of course, trying to swing one round, got an under glove onto his one. So suddenly 2 wickets to the man you wouldn't expect. And that was the first session. I thought that the Indians just tried a bit hard for wickets in that first session. They over-tried. I just had that feeling, looking for wickets, trying to press and claim wickets while the ball was still new. I thought their best spell, actually, was that first hour after lunch where they bowled very tightly and no one could score any runs. And there were only about 20 runs in that first hour after play. So it was an interesting day because of its difference.
Harmy, the very mildest groin strain takes a week before you can feel confident. And if Stokes has strained his groin, Jofra Archer, we know his inclusion was a gamble, is a gamble. His workload may just have increased by 30%. You mentioned cramp, I think that's very optimistic. I mean, he had treatment for 10 minutes and he was stretching, and that really does throw a massive... It's not a cat amongst the pigeons, it's a lion.
It is a lion. I mean, that injury there has huge ramifications for the next 6 months of English cricket, because we've seen what Ben can do with the ball since he's come back. And all of a sudden, if he's back to where he was sort of pre-New Zealand, when he's just playing as a batter, then all of a sudden it's a different bowling attack. Then you might struggle to play one of your fast lads, because you can't risk. You're going to have to play three reliable bowlers. And then, I mean, the ramifications of Ben can't bowl for a long period of time. I mean, you can start listing them. You know, Woke's not in the best of form. Archer can't bowl as many overs. Shoaib Bashir doesn't look like getting a wicket. All of these things come on top of the back of one little groin strain. And that, for me, is where, you know, the next 24, 48 hours comes, because if we can't see Ben Stokes bowling, and it is a little bit stronger than we think from a groin strain point of view, then, I mean, England have got some serious headache when they come to selecting their sides, and where, you know, Jofra Archer fits into it. You talk about Archer's workloads. He might not have to bowl as much if Chris Woakes steps up to the plate, and we expect Chris Woakes to bowl like he does here anyway. He will probably take the burden of a lot of that them Stokes overs, but it's a huge worry. It's a huge worry, not just for this Test match, but for the rest of the series, and more importantly, getting it right for what the big series to come in, obviously 3 or 4 months' time in Australia.
Jeremy, I know I was disproportionately excited about Nitish Reddy swinging the ball like he was, but it's always been slightly irritating to me that people talk about him rather dismissively as a batting all-rounder and disregard his bowling contributions. But, I mean, he was swinging beautifully away from the right-handers, and then also had the in-swinger going as well, but used it sparingly. I thought he bowled beautifully, and, you know, he was fortunate to get rid of Ben Duckett, caught down the leg side, but he bowled a beauty to Zach Crawley. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about swing bowling and its gradual disappearance, and then purr about Joe Root, please.
Okay. Yeah, look, Nitish Reddy, because he's slower, perhaps the ball has helped, you know, it's helped. In other words, the ball's got time to swing just a little bit more. And I think those bowlers, you see the swing obviously a lot more easily, don't you, than someone who's only moving it that far. And that's all you've got to move it, really, from the middle of the bat to the outside edge. And so we see that kind of swing a lot more. But the hands, obviously, because you see it more, they tend to follow it a bit more. And so that's why I think he got those. And batsmen feel they can attack him because he's not quite as quick either. And so you look to play a few more shots against it. Because you might be finding some of the other bowlers more difficult. And so I thought he did a good job, actually, for India today. It was the last spell that he couldn't find quite so much swing, and that's understandable. That was later in the day. Joe Root is a fine classical player, and he adapted his game. And he needed a classical game today. It wasn't a time for ramping and playing lots of sweeps and so on and special, you know, this and that. It was a day to play with a straight bat, to allow the ball to come to you, to play it in close, keep the hands in close, knock it around when they lost their line a little bit more. Most of his runs kind of came behind square, if you think, turning the ball, running at the ball, and then his drives would go squarer because the ball ball was swinging. That was the danger today, wasn't it, for batting? It wasn't so much nipping off the surface. It was all, even though when it swings, the ball hits and carries on that line. It's as if it has seemed. But, you know, you go with it. You open the bat to go with it. So the shots are going, cover drive goes squarer today. And so everything was much squarer. Not many shots down the ground today, I don't think, only unless you get very full. So, and Root was equal to anything that was thrown to him. He didn't really have too much trouble, I didn't think, once he got himself in. And he got beaten a couple of times early, that's okay. That can happen. But once he was in control.
For me, watching Joe Root bat, watching him bat so many times on this, fantastic historical ground. It was a bowling attack who struggled to bowl on the slope, and it was a batter who knew exactly his angles on the slope. It really was everything that Jeremy's just said there about playing square with the wicket, using the angles perfectly well. This is a man who's about to go on the honours board for the 8th time, and he showed his huge amount of experience facing against two bowlers who bowled on it before, and Mohammad Siraj and Jasprit Bumrah, and also facing bowlers who hadn't bowled on it before. I just thought he didn't get out of third gear. Really didn't need to get out of third gear. The game situation meant that he needed to stay into third gear, and for me, that's why I think England are ahead of the game. I don't think this is a classical flat pitch which is going to get better and better. If anything, it might get slower and lower. And if that's the point, it might be harder to score on. I don't think it's got any massive demons in it, but I think it could be harder to score on as we go on throughout the 3 to 4 to 5 days. And I think because of that, you could be looking at a difference of the highest score in this contest, Joe Root, and then everybody else, and that could be the difference between winning and losing the test match.
I think 250 is actually probably worth 320. In a normal kind of a day, I think. That's the effect of the surface of the pitch today.
How do you think Jasprit Bumrah went? I mean, it seemed to me that in the first hour, Jasprit Bumrah and Akashdeep were doing too much. England's openers were missing it, not just by an inch. They were missing it by the width of their bat and more.
Yeah, they were, and there was obviously there was too much swing on offer. Like you said, missing it by too much. I thought, from Bumrah's point of view, I don't think he was backed up that much. I thought they got their ends wrong. I really did. I thought Akashdeep starting here, the nursery ground end, and then I just didn't think they got their ends right. I know Siraj averages 15 from the pavilion end, but on this this type of surface, the way the ball was swinging, I thought Siraj would have been better for here, throwing the ball up the hill and letting the ball come. When he was bowling from the pavilion end, he was trying to swing it back up the hill, and it was going too much from wider. So he was trying to get it from wider, swinging it away from outside off stump, and it was swinging big, so he was easy left. But then when he went for the $1 million ball to get it from sort of middle and leg onto off stump, it just kept going down the slope, and he got clipped through sort of square leg comfortably, and he was milked. Where Bumrah got his lines right, got his lengths right, and he bowled an absolute beauty to get rid of Harry Brook. I look at it. I think India will. We're still in the game because you put 2 wickets on it. All of a sudden, England are under pressure. We can bowl them out for 320. They could also turn around and say, well, if we had bowled a little bit better in that hour that Jeremy was on about just after the lunch break, if we had been like that consistently throughout the day, this could have been a completely different outlook from a scoring point of view.
Let's move on to the prognosis for tomorrow then, because the second new ball is only 2 overs old. I'm really interested to hear what you said, Jeremy, about 250 being worth sort of 320 in the modern context. We had 2 very high-scoring games at Headingley and Edgbaston, and the result of that, and the way that England have been playing for the last couple of years, is that people, supporters, spectators, viewers, don't necessarily don't put the same value on totals of 300 that used to exist. There's now, they've become accustomed to seeing England score 350 and India score 350 in a day, and I had the feeling for most of the day that that's not the case, and that actually if England do get 350, add another 100, they would like as many as they possibly can get, obviously, but I just have the sense that 350 is going to be quite hard for India to match.
Depends on what happens to this pitch tomorrow, doesn't it? Do you suspect, you guys, that it's going to get a little bit faster? I would hope it does for the game. England will hope it doesn't. England will hope probably that it remains the same, although they might test different parts of the pitch tomorrow, and we'll have to wait and see how a short ball, because we didn't see many of that happening here today, and whether it's very difficult to A, get out of the way of, B, you've got to wait for the ball a lot longer, and it becomes very hard to time, the horizontal bat shot, and sometimes it goes in the air and it brings catches into play, especially, probably to the mound, not the mound stand, whatever the grandstand at side of the ground is, hitting up that way. Look, we'll wait and see about that one, but I think that England are in a reasonable position, only 4 down here. I'm wondering how Smith will play, because that's he played so aggressively and was so much in charge in the other games. Can he do that again on this surface will be very interesting to watch. But yeah, I don't know. Do you think he can?
Yeah, I think he can. I think I watched him. You watched him in that last contest. He went off like a train, didn't he? Went off like an absolute blaze of glory, and then all of a sudden, India bowled well to him. Him and Harry they didn't get bogged down, but India started putting maidens together and putting good passages of play, and Jimmy respected the bowler. And then when Harry Brook got out, he went from sort of 3rd gear into 6th gear and went bang. So I think there is a gear stick there that he utilises very, very well. I think his temperament's good. He's seeing the ball like a football at the minute. So yeah, I would hope that he comes in. England have got shot makers. If England can put another 50 on with this partnership here, with Root and with Stokes, just get up to 300. All of a sudden, you've got Smith, you've got not so much Wokes, but Carson, Archer. Archer can throw his hands at the ball as well. They can get runs quickly, but they can also demoralise the team. And if they can keep India out there into that middle session of the day, England will be nearly 400. And that for me is a lot of runs on this surface if it doesn't get quicker. If it doesn't get quicker, then you'll get a good sense by tea time we're in for a really, really boring game. And a game which is not going nowhere, but a game that could go fast forward quickly because the ball's going to go down rather than up. And when it goes down with Carse and with Archer and the pace that they have, and if Wokes can get it off the straight, all of a sudden, talking about bowling short and bowling aggressive, them back of a length balls that go flying along the floor, what potentially could happen on a slow pitch. England might just have the right bowlers on this game.
Yeah, all that's possible. I think the key to getting that total first, the big first innings, is such a lovely, delicious thing to have if you're that batting side. Look at the last game when 587 was, and you got a lead of 180. It kind of was the defining piece of play. I mean, there were lots of other good bits of play around that match, but that was the defining bit for me. And if England can do the same here, that will be of great concern to the Indians, I think. So, but Root's the key for me, because he allows all the time to have partnerships through the innings, because he just manipulates and manoeuvres the game around. And I think if he goes early, because those first 20 overs tomorrow are going to be key, aren't they? With this new ball, if it does swing again, then India are in with a chance to take a few wickets.
That's the key. England have got shot makers, and all they need is one person to stay with the shot maker, and that is going to be Joe Root. And if Joe Root can go on and get 150 with the shot makers around, that could be the difference between a 100-run lead, 150-run lead on a surface which is not made for people to play big shots. And that's what India want. You look at their top order, they've got some big shot players in there. And another thing that we haven't mentioned,
Pant.
You've got Pant.
Injury or not?
They could be.
We don't know.
They could be going with 10 men here. They could be going with 10 men.
I think I'd rather be India without Pant than England without Stokes.
Oh yes, definitely. Saying that. No, I disagree. I think Pant's huge in this team, because I think he's the one that changes gear for them. I think Jaiswal gets them off to a start. He can bat in any given different way, but I mean Pant can can make the game fast forward very, very quickly if you get off to a good start. And he's also there if you don't get off to a good start and you're maybe 3 down for 80 or 90, he can come in and counter punch. So I think he would be a big loss than probably Stokes bowling. 50-50 because Archer's playing.
My biggest concern, and I've been fretting about it for the last 10 minutes, Harmy, is that you said about 10 minutes ago that Joe Root was about to become his 8th entry on the Lord's Honours Board. So to untempt fate, I'm going to remind everyone that he does need another run. He is 99 not out.
I couldn't stop laughing when people were booing and going, the ball's going down, don't get in. I mean, Ben Stokes has played the 5th ball out, so they're all booing. I'm Joe standing there going, I could get a loosener tomorrow morning. Nice little loosener on my leg stump off the slope. Thank you very much. See you later. I've got so many Test match hundreds. I'm not gonna not sleep tonight. I'm gonna be quite happy going to bed tonight, knowing that a loosener's gonna come on leg stump. I'll flick it down leg side and go right. Thank you very much for my number 8 at Lords.
Finally, just the final thought is that. We saw India prepared to be as patient as they needed to be, and we had the sense before the Edgbaston Test match, a strong sense, and with good reason, that they would have been happy to walk away with a draw. They even spoke before the Test match about trying to get to Lords, or at least not trying to, but being happy about getting to Lords 1-0 down. So you get the sense that I don't know, they're happy to play the patience game. To let England make the running, to let England make the mistakes, actually. And I get the same sense now. However many England put on the board, I think India won't try to force the pace. I think if they are bowled, if they receive really good bowling from England, and they are limited to scoring at 2.8 and over, I don't think it'll bother them. I just think that, we're as you mentioned right at the start, Jeremy, it's just got a really old-fashioned sense to it. Having said that, Jamie Smith could come out tomorrow and score 100 off 60 balls.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're right. I think I'd agree with what you've said just about the way that India will absorb the pressure a bit more than really feeling they have to go after the game. I think they're happy to just play within themselves. And that's how we've seen them go. People like KL Rahul is a good example of that. He's, again, that kind of batsman. Jaiswal tends to go at the ball a little harder, left hand, right hand. That works quite nicely for them, but we'll see how Jaiswal goes if the ball's keeping down and squatting a little bit here. As soon as you get into these shots with an angled bat, you run the risk of getting the ball back onto your stumps. We'll just have to wait and see for those things. Gill has played. They've got to work out a way to get Gill out, don't they? He's got so many runs in this series. And so they've got to work out a way to get him in as early as possible, so the new ball is still new at that phase. They haven't been able to do that yet.
Back-to-back Test matches, going deep into day 5 in the last 2 Test matches, having fielded potentially for 120 to 130 overs in this Test match. That's where England are going to capitalise. That's where they get the 100-run lead in the first 20 overs of the India bat, when the India bat. If they can do that, potentially with no pant, then that's how England win this Test match.
Thirsty business, this, Harmy.
Oh, is it? And I'm thirsty.
We're off.
That is following on. England will resume on the second morning at 251 for 4. Having won the toss and chosen to bat first. We'll be on air 5 minutes before the start of play with a quick look at conditions at 10:55. For now, though, it's a cold drink time. Cheers.